Yes, I am. Yeah.
Hello, hello. Am I audible? You like me to sing a song?
So, my name's Anton Cole. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups, normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups and some accelerators. And lately, I've been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. Perhaps we can start with the lady of the house, Margaret, and then on to Luke. Please introduce yourself, Steve.
Hi everyone, my name is Margaret Bui. I have been working in the talent space for 2 decades. Currently, look after engineering and product and marketing recruitment at Mixmax, a US SaaS company. But in the last 20 years, I've hired for all different functions: engineering, product, sales, marketing, you name it, across EMEA and also in the US. Apart from that, I do interview training and interview coaching, and I'll be happy to help with anything related to hiring, interviewing and training.
Hello, everyone. My name is Luke, and I've been in recruitment for about 14 years, but for the past 8 or so, my role has been to embed into scaling organizations, normally with some kind of VC backing, and set up the tools, systems, processes, best practices needed to scale in a way so people, it's not a blocker to any investment milestones. And I've been doing this largely independently for the past 3. And I like to use sort of data-driven lean and the theory of constraints to make the recruitment function much more operationally sound and rigorous, and then scale up much more efficient processes rather than throwing lots and lots of your money at the top of a very inefficient funnel. And I'm also a massive barbecue nerd, so you can ask me anything about startups or barbecues.
That's a good start. Well, thank you very much to both of you, team. I really appreciate your inputs today. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Margaret first and then to Luke, since Margaret's been here before. And if we can have one do and one don't each, we'd appreciate that. And if we can use different logics for do and don't, so not use the same reasoning, basically, that would be great. Margaret, do you want to go ahead first?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of one do, I would say streamline the hiring process, because top candidates, they will not wait weeks for a decision. So design a fast human hiring flow, short application, maximum maybe 3 interview rounds, clear communication, providing feedback. Use hopefully you have an ATS, or if you don't have an applicant tracking system, you can use some lightweight tools like Notion or Google Forms. Time kind of kills deals, and the same applies to hiring. And in terms of don'ts, I would just say don't hire just for speed. Even though I did say you should kind of not take too long, but at the same time, rushed hires can cost far more than taking your time to find the right fit. So if you feel in the pressure to fill a role, consider interim contractors or part-time help. Use clear scorecards to guide hiring decisions, and involve multiple perspectives, so you can recover from being understaffed, but definitely not from a bad hire who sets you back 6 months.
Well, I think Margaret just nailed it. I don't think there's any do's or don'ts left. You can pretty much leave and go and grow your startup successfully from that. In terms of do's, I'd say do start measuring early. It's never too soon to start measuring the quantitative elements of what you're doing. So what's the level of effort to make a hire over the course of a year with engineering, with growth, or whatever. So you're in a situation where you're suddenly getting an injection of cash, or you get a seed round and you suddenly need to 10x the amount of hiring you do. You need some kind of basis for being able to project what's the actual cost of this going to be, not just in terms of money, but also engineering hours. So if it's currently taking you 6 hours of engineering hours to make one hire, and you've got a seed round and you need to make 60 hires in the next 2 years, you need to be able to figure out whether this is going to wipe one of the features off of your board. And it tends to be something that businesses are very good at measuring. So start tracking early. As Margaret said, you don't need an ATS. It could just be a spreadsheet. But make sure if you do have an ATS, that you're governing the way that data is going into it, so you can look back over a period of a year or two and figure out what's the most efficient and data-centric way to move forward to achieve your goals. So that's the do. Don't assume that your employer brand is something you can just get to when you have the time. You have an employer brand whether you like it or not, because your employer brand is just the aggregate assumptions about all the people that know about your organization. So people are making decisions about your organization based on the way that you interact with the market, whether you like it or not. So don't assume that it's some kind of project that you can do once the new people ops person has come in. I see organizations putting off this for a long time, and they're just frankly not in control of their employer brand. And then they have sometimes a lot of damage control to do when they actually turn around to it. So I'd recommend a kind of a more guerrilla kind of bottom up employer branding, where you empower individuals at the bottom. So if it's engineers, get them on GitHub, get them, empower them to work with the marketing team and do some lives, and build an employer brand from the ground up using the best resources you have, which is your very, very clever people in your cool startup. So that's my do's and my don'ts.
That is amazing from both of you. I really appreciate this. I guess this time we go on to some questions from our founders. Now, just a quick reminder to those of you that are on the live streams, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please feel free to join us here live. And it's audio only, by the way, on Microsoft Teams, because unfortunately, we can't monitor your questions there live. So you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. You can either click on the links on those live streams or simply go onto our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Again, startuptoscaleup.club. You click on today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 163. Click join. It's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, a link to this call. You tune in, and being audio only, it means you can tune in from anywhere via any platform or device. Once you're here, then simply drop your question in the chat, and we'll then give you the mic and you can fire away. As far as dropping stuff in the chat, perhaps Margaret and Luke may also want to drop their LinkedIn URLs in case anybody wants to reach out to them. And the others are welcome to drop their LinkedIn URLs too. Just a quick explanation of what you're about and where you are, and a LinkedIn URL would be great. You see, we've had over 280,000 people that have tuned into these sessions. I don't know if I mentioned that at the beginning, but none of that would have happened without people like Margaret or Luke. So the least we can do is perhaps at least follow them on LinkedIn. But they're normally quite okay for people to reach out to them too if you need any help. Obviously, they do these amazing Q&As for free so that they don't have to keep doing other stuff for free. So let's just bear that in mind. But otherwise, I think it's time we go on to our next question. Just a reminder, for those of you that have just joined, this is Startup Talent Q&A 163, which means we're taking any questions you may have on helping you hire, keep, and empower the right people, really. So anything to do with talent, whether it's contracts, finding people, job ads, empowering them, employment branding, anything within that sphere, feel free to drop it in the chat. So the first question, it's in the chat already. I'm the founder of a pre-seed biotech startup in Lancaster, where we develop plant-based solutions to enhance soil fertility in urban agriculture. With limited brand recognition and a small budget, how can we craft job adverts that attract top talent in plant science and biotechnology, clearly communicating our mission and values? Additionally, what specific elements should we include in our job descriptions to convey the unique skills required for our environmentally focused projects, ensuring we reach candidates passionate about sustainable agriculture? It's an interesting one. How about we go on to Luke for this one first? So I guess there's a few questions here, and it'd be nice if they were here. But number one is obviously employment brand that you also talked about, Luke. And then the other two, I guess it's she's saying job description, but I'm assuming she also means the job advert that they put out there.
Yeah, sure.
And how to get the right people. What would you do if you were here? What are some kind of routes to take on this?
Yeah, it's first of all, it's great to see startups like that being up in the north where I'm from as well, and not just all in London. So well done, founder of Pre-Seed Biotech, whoever you are. Yeah, I think it's a good question. It's very common when I advise CEOs and founders for small businesses, how do we make our employer brand sort of bigger than our budget? So first of all, limited brand recognition and a small budget, that's not necessarily a disadvantage when you're in a hyper niche sector like yourself. So as I mentioned before, I'd recommend using your employees to your fullest advantage. Not everything has to be sort of a top-down governed project that eats up a lot of like operational, budget and time. So I'd start with just a social-centric campaign that's empowered by whoever it is that is your best example in your organization of someone who's passionate, interested in the space, what's their background. So that's number one. Number two, non-transactional outreach, like reach out to people start with your organization, your employees. Who did they previously work for? Where did they go to school? When I say school, so I'm speaking to a lot of Americans recently. Where did they go to university? What like did they do like masters and postgrads in this type of stuff? And then give something to those communities. It could be something small like access to a kind of beta or just a bit of information, or even host your own events in that space. But just make sure that you're actually giving something to the community rather than saying, how can we sort of incept this community to come and work for us? That's number one. Number two is you're talking about job descriptions to help attract top talent. Job descriptions don't do that. Or job ads. You're going to get thousands and thousands of applications, whether you like it or not, because of the internet. So what I'd recommend is writing copy to the best of your ability. There's no magic secret hacks for this. But what I recommend is market mapping. So instead of relying on inbound, of which you have no control of, and of which it costs you a lot of time to work through, I'd get really focused on outbound. So get a spreadsheet, go on LinkedIn or wherever your community lives. You can start with your organization, you can start with your competitors, you can start with the schools that that put out these cool people, and just start making lists of people who are in this space, and then start reaching out to them. Even if you targeted 10 a day, 5 a day, you will have a bigger impact on your brand than any ad that has been tweaked to Kingdom Come. You're still going to get the same people just like looking for work rather than interested. So I don't think you're going to get I don't think you're going to be able to qualify people's passion by some magic sentence in a job ad. I think it's going to be more focused on sort of outbound, and that overlaps with your employer brand as well. I don't want to gobble up too much of the time. If you have any follow-ups, I'm happy to answer them, but I want to make sure Margaret has a great chance to jump in as well.
Thank you very much for that. Margaret, what would you do here?
Wow, that was great advice, Luke. Not sure how much I can add here, but no, that was really good. So, starting with the job adverts to attract candidates, I think in general, creating effective job adverts when you have limited brand recognition, it really starts with storytelling and mission clarity. So you want to open your job ads with a compelling line about why your work matters. So for example, help us transform urban architecture, agriculture through sustainable plant-based science. But basically, you want to be clear about your impact and values from the start. And then you also want to emphasize what sets your company apart beyond salary. So your purpose-driven mission, opportunities to innovate, autonomy in early stage roles, and the flexible working perks, and that might resonate with scientists who are passionate about sustainability. So your job ad really should feel less like a formality, more like a call to adventure, so instead of saying we're hiring a plant scientist to join our team, just mention something about the mission and about the values, so so basically, like, structure your job as like this, like, start with the why, what's the environmental or social impact, then what's your role, what's going to be that person role in the mission, so clearly outline how this role contributes to your broader goals. And then also what we do in our job descriptions at Mixmax is that we show what success looks like in the first 3 to 6 months. So set expectations with early deliverables. Also, I would include must-have and nice-to-have skills. So be honest and flexible, because I guess these scientists might be transitioning from academia or research lab. So yeah, don't have like a list of 20 skills that you must have. Just have a few that are must have, and the rest maybe just desirable skills. Anything about culture and values, so mention flexibility, autonomy, startup pace, sustainability values, and then like what's in it for them. So whether it's equity options, a chance to shape the product early, access to passionate founding team, publication or conference opportunities or real world applications of the work. Mention that, and also use warm human language and avoid any kind of corporate jargon. You're not Google, you're a smaller company, so be proudly mission driven and early stage. And I also really like what Luke said about outbound outreach. You certainly don't want to wait for great people to come to you. You could be waiting for a very long time. So you definitely need some proactive outreach. And how do you do it on a budget? So definitely build that target list that Luke mentioned as well. So maybe look at, apart from LinkedIn, I guess I've never hired in that space, but LinkedIn, I guess, would be one thing. But also look at like research assistants and postdocs at any kind of local, agri science departments. Look at maybe scientists that are publishing in any kind of relevant industry journals, any kind of contributors to any kind of agriculture, meetups or any industry associations. And then you can just reach out with purpose, which is exactly what we recruiters do on a day-to-day basis. So you can just mention that you came across the work, mention what that work was, what you were impressed by, mention that you're a co-founder of a biotech startup creating plant-based solutions, what the team is doing, and maybe just like ask them, would you be open to a quick chat about what we're building? And especially when people get contacted by a founder, they're definitely much more likely to respond. And keep it like short and specific. Show them why you're reaching out to them specifically. And I think initially you want to just ask for the insight, not just their application. And if they're not available, ask who they would recommend. I would actually like start building that referral loop. And there must be some job boards that would be just like suitable for agriculture. I wouldn't know exactly what they are, but I would also look at like university career boards, particularly like plant, agro, soil science departments, and I imagine there also would be some specific Slack groups. So yeah, I think it's just the final thing. When you don't have a money or name recognition, you want to lead with meaning. So frame an opportunity like work on a product with real world impact from day one, or be part of a startup tackling climate and food insecurity at the root level, literally, that kind of stuff. Because people who care about sustainability, mission, and innovation might find that far more compelling than the big company paycheck. Not that the paycheck isn't important, but mission is important as well.
You're on fire, the two of you today. Thank you very much for that. The only thing I would chime on, and both of you have touched on this, but number one, it's utilize your own people to find. Now, unfortunately, because you send that question via email, I try to find you on LinkedIn and find the company, and I can't. So I'm not sure how many people you've got there already, but if you have any, try to utilize that demographic to be your initial sort of sources, if that makes sense. Number two, both Luke initially and now a little bit Margaret as well touched on the university side. There is so much quality, especially for this kind of stuff at university level. And if you want people that are more senior and they've got more experience, try various events. There's quite a few events out there that one you can go to, but also the people that organize these events, they will have, wide lists and various other and larger networks that they can tap into. And, if a recruitment agency reached out to them, they'd definitely ask for money or say, no, we can't do it. But if a startup founder does that, they would be more inclined to help kind of maybe share a post on LinkedIn or reach out to people and stuff like that. And definitely, I think Margaret touched on that kind of pipeline building and talent pool building. That can go a long way too. But yeah, we are now 33 minutes away from wrapping up our last Startup Talent Q&A of this summer. So, just a reminder, we are now doing Startup Talent Q&A 163 until 1 p.m. UK time. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have on your talent journey, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, perhaps how to test and interview them, how to convince them to come and work for you and with you, how to empower them and train them, how to build your employment brand or company culture, and all that jazz. There literally are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. If you're on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that we're unable to monitor your questions there. So if you do want to ask us anything, you need to be here on our audio-only call on Microsoft Teams. You can either click the links that I've put on those live streams or simply go and visit our website, startuptoscaleup.club. You click on today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 163. You then click join. It's a quick registration that gets you a link to our a link to your email, and through that link you can then join us here on Microsoft Teams. When you're here, because it's audio only, it means you can join us from anywhere via any platform or device, and you can also then simply drop your question in the chat, and then we'll give you the mic to ask our panelists. If, however, your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other events we run. We normally do 6 regular events. Monday's talent, as you can see today, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of each month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of each month it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you're there, you may also want to join our WhatsApp community, which is groups of founders, investors, and operators. And I've actually put the WhatsApp link in our chat here on Microsoft Teams, but you can also find the link at the top and bottom of our website. You'll see a WhatsApp icon. Now, without further ado, we'll go on to our next question. I'm founder of a pre-seed marine tech startup in Blackpool, where we create eco-friendly buoys that that monitor coastal erosion. With limited funds and brand visibility, sourcing talent in marine engineering has been a struggle. What practical strategies could we employ to attract specialized candidates passionate about marine conservation? Additionally, how can we build a sustainable talent pool that allows us to source skilled candidates quickly as we grow, especially given the niche expertise required in our field? I just realized, I'm not sure I should have picked this question because this is very similar to the one above, but since I put it forward, um, let's see what Margaret and then Luke got to say on this. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so as you said, similarly to the previous question, when you are an early stage and under the radar startup, you do want to like lead with mission-led messaging, like smart outreach and also tapping into the right community. So I imagine that people in that space, they care deeply about conservation, and ocean sustainability. So again, like in your job descriptions, in all your communications, you want to lead with purpose, not just the product. So I guess you just want to position your job opportunities as a way to protect coastlines, not just I don't know, build hardware. And also be very specific in your job ad. So like, what's your environmental mission? And I would literally have that like at the beginning of the job descriptions. What's the impact of the role? Focus also on like learning, ownership, and innovation, not just qualifications. I actually did just when you were speaking, I just looked at some like marine focused job boards and networks. So apparently there's something called all at sea jobs. There's something called conservation careers. There's something called environmentjob.co.uk. So again, that's maybe some like somewhere for you to look at. And again, like with the previous answer, I think you also want to use direct outreach. So maybe like search for early career marine engineers on LinkedIn. Maybe like engage with some professors or lecturers at marine institutes to ask for graduate referrals. I think that could be a good way to do that. I think another thing that you might want to do is that when you like start contacting people, maybe some engineers will not be ready to join full time, but maybe they could advise or contribute on a project basis, and potentially this could turn into a full time hires later. So I would also like potentially offer part time or advisory roles, and be active on LinkedIn as well, because like I think you can maybe publish some short blogs or posts, or you can engage marine science students and professionals by sharing your learning, so they might want to join you. So in general, like maybe share some updates on LinkedIn with some visuals about what you're doing as well. That can help in attracting people as well. Oh, sorry, just one other thing. I would maybe also reach out to like ex-PhD researchers or engineering students who are looking for internship and who want more impact and ownership, because they could be interested as well.
Yeah, not much to add there. I think that was really solid. Again, amazing to see startups cropping up in places like Blackpool, where we really need that kind of innovation and wealth creation. So well done you. On this, I think I don't want to repeat myself, but I think there are some sort of additional pieces here. Source the talent in marine engineering. Yeah, sort of start with yourself and ask yourself, am I disqualifying people that don't need to be disqualified? I would imagine most of people in marine engineering, and probably something like oil and gas offshore, right? I studied offshore chemistry in Aberdeen years ago, and there's just an enormous industry around there. Are you making the assumptions that they aren't passionate about conservation? Is there a candidate pool there that not only have the skills to do what you want, but maybe are more likely to move because they're actively looking for an organization like this? So I would say just like start with yourself and make sure that you're not disqualifying anyone in this niche space, because the subpopulations of candidates are really going to make the difference there. In terms of practical strategies, I think market mapping sourcing really is the way for any niche organization with not much in the way of resources. Like a market mapping approach is the way forward. People aren't just going to queue up to click on your link and apply for your job. You need to reach out to the people, because you know where they are. You know who your competitors are. You know where they work. You already know this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to create a startup, right? In this sector. So go through your current employees, previous employers. Go through your friends and your contact list, and then just start with each organization, and then make a list of all the people that look interested. And then that's round one. Round two, do the exact same thing with the people that you see. Where did they used to work? And you'll find that you'll get this kind of exponential sort of fractal sort of network effect, where within a couple of sessions of just mapping out your market, you'll find potentially hundreds of people who are right for the role. And then it's a matter of, how do I reach out to them? And it could be, as Matt said before, if the founder reaches out, then it's a much higher conversion rate. I'd recommend like using a Loom video, something like that. Free video multimedia is 50% more likely to get a response. So just pick out, even if you picked out 20 to 30 minutes a day for these types of actions over a period of a month, you'd be in a pretty strong position, and that's all free, right? And then lastly, kind of building a sustainable talent pool. I recommend really thinking like a marketer, and rather than saying when I happen to need a role, I go out to market begging people to come and work for me. If you were selling something and that your message was, hey, we desperately need you to buy this, otherwise the business is in trouble, it's not a particularly good message, is it? Right? And it's not a particularly good time to start selling. So create a talent community. Every time people apply, you've got yourself emails, and if you were a marketer and you had a massive email list, you're obviously going to start nurturing these people. So maybe like a monthly newsletter that goes out to the people that have already applied in the past. Put it on LinkedIn. Invite people to click on it on your website and join, and just make sure there's something valuable specifically to the people that you want. So don't worry if it's like too niche. That's fine, because all that happens is it self-qualifies. People who aren't interested unsubscribe, and people who are interested stay subscribed. So if the only people who subscribe are the people who understand like the dense sort of niche sort of area of what you're talking about, then you've nurtured a really interesting talent community of warm leads, and that could go up to the thousands over a period of a year. I've previously worked with an organization that had 150,000 people in their ATS, and their marketer, the head of marketing, wasn't even aware of it. There was more contacts in their ATS than there was in their CRM. And they're spending so much money and time trying to squeeze every bit of value out their CRM, completely ignoring this enormous body of potential leads. So think about maybe a talent community. Again, they're all very low cost solutions. They just require a little bit of setup at the beginning.
Thank you very much, team. We'll now go on to the next question. For those of you that are here, please don't be shy. Drop a question in the chat, and then we'll give you the mic and you can ask our amazing panelists. In the meantime, let's go on to question 3. We're planning to raise Series A next year for our sports tech startup in Ipswich, where we create wearable devices for amateur athletes to track performance. I'm seeking an efficient yet robust way to assess candidates' technical abilities and passion for sports technology. With limited funds, what low-cost testing approaches can we use to evaluate both technical and cultural fit? Also, how can we create a structured interview process that identifies candidates who can adapt to our fast-paced environments and contribute to our innovation goals? Oh boy. You want the secret to long-lasting everything. How about this? Let's see what's, again, sorry, Luke, I know you just went through, but we'll try and alternate between the two of you who goes first. So let's go on to Luke, and then we'll go on to Margaret. What are your thoughts? So 1, I guess it's assessment. So how do you assess people? And 2, focusing on both, I guess, cultural fits as well as technical fits. And last but not least, how do you structure all of that? How do you put a process in place? Any thoughts on this, Luke?
Yeah, not at all. This is a big question. Okay, so I'll try and answer it as best possible without waffling off and using up all the remaining time. There's also a lot of variables here as well. So I'm going to have to take a little bit of poetic license and make some assumptions about your business. But fundamentally, if you have a talent operating model, if you need a quick way to assess skills at the top of your funnel, I'm going to assume that when you say technical skills, you mean like software engineering, or even embedded engineering or whatever it is for wearables, then you need a way of measuring skills rather than proxies for skills. So it's very easy to ask competency-based questions and people can give you an answer, but you haven't actually assessed their skills. You've just assessed their ability to talk about skills. That's not the same. So when it comes to technical skills, I always recommend just a short some kind of technical test, but you want to set guide rails on this, because if this is too high up the funnel, the operational cost of reviewing them would be higher than if you just found like the top sort of 5, 6 to 8 people and just did an in-depth interview with them anyway. So you have to be mindful of the impact of the operational overhead of having some kind of technical test too high up the funnel. So you could use like a tool like Test Gorilla or something like this, which is just a testing platform. They're pretty detailed. They've got a lot of specific, you can kind of click together a test that gives you, specific software engineering. You can kind of figure out how hard you want them to be, how long you want them to be, and make it no more than like a 30-minute test for the candidate, and have a relatively high barrier to entry. And what that does is it wipes out anyone who isn't really understanding it at the sort of the theoretical level, sort of the computer science of it. And then whoever's left, you've got a much higher, you can devote a lot of your manual time, your energy to those people. Maybe I always recommend after that, either kind of like a pair programming or whiteboarding session with one of your engineers, that it goes into real depth on their skills, rather again than some kind of conversational interview, because it's easy for people who talk a good game to get through interviews like that. But it turns out you employ them and they don't actually have some like maybe a fundamental skill, like knowledge around like algorithms and things like this. So top of the funnel, if you need some kind of technical test, top of the funnel, you don't want it to be too burdensome on your time. You don't want an engineer having to spend 30 minutes for every completed test. So something like a Test Gorilla that's a little bit less custom, less bespoke, but much easier to implement and integrate into your systems, and much more easier to review is probably a good step. But yeah, always have to follow that up with something that's much more in depth. So that would be my overall advice for sort of the skills based hiring at the top of the funnel. You can also like create something on your own, like DevOps engineers. If you've got a DevOps team, they're great at creating like custom environments. So set up a custom environment and then get, and then send that as a link. But again, we're getting into territory where the operational cost might be higher than the actual efficiencies you're creating. So think in those terms. Creating a structured interview that identifies the candidates who can adapt to your fast-paced environment. Every startup says that. I'll start with yourself and just be your own devil's advocate. Does everyone need to adapt to your fast-paced environment? Why is your environment fast-paced? Do you just have really bad business and project management? Why is it fast-paced, right? So first of all, just ask yourself: is this a problem that could be removed with just better business planning, rather than candidates who are able to manage our poor business planning? So I always have to sort of start with sort of challenging the founder on those terms. But in general, after that, you just want evidence of things, what they've done in the past. So a good competency-based interview with some structured questions around what they've done, what kind of goals they work to, how they felt about those goals. I think a lot of founders can not go deep enough in competency-based questions. They'll ask a top-line question and then and then another top-line question and then another top-line question, rather than to asking yourself for this one top-line question. So, for instance, have you ever managed a project that's changed halfway through? How did you deal with it? What did you do to sort of get a business back on track? They answer that question, then you move on to something else. What you need to be doing is digging deeper into that. Okay, thanks for the answer. Tell me a bit more about what you said there. What kind of system did you use? How did you feel about that? How did you manage your time over that period? And rather than going wider, go deeper, because you'll often find that maybe people have practiced a certain answer, but when you get down to, can you give me specific details, they find it much harder. And the people who have really lived it and really owned it, those people who are happy with that fast pace and are quite innovative, they can give you the real low-level answers, where the people who maybe haven't can't. I feel like I've been talking for 7 years there. Apologies, guys, so I'll stop there.
That's right. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Yes, sure. So, yeah, no, great, great input from Luke here. So firstly, in terms of low-cost ways to assess technical ability, while I completely agree with the platforms you've mentioned, you don't always even need to do that. Like we have different. It's like what I would actually suggest is that you have like a practical task or a take-home challenge. So we do it at Mixmax. We don't use any platform. Like basically, ask candidates to solve a real problem that you faced. And then keep it like at 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 hours max of the work, and give a very clear brief. So this filters out those who aren't serious or who can't execute. We do that task honestly most positions. I have this growth marketing manager role now. The task is actually just we tell them it shouldn't take more than 90 minutes, so people are happy to do it. We're not asking them to spend 5 hours or 5 days on things, but that really shows us how someone works. So definitely some kind of a practical task or a take-home challenge. Also a pairing interview or live problem solving. So do a short live session with your technical lead where candidates talk through like a small feature or a problem. So you're not just testing coding, you're testing communication, logic, and your approach. So again, you don't necessarily need anything like a paid platform to do that. You just need someone internally to create a specific test. I would also ask for examples of past projects, whether it's apps or GitHub repos or just anything like sports or adventure related, and then in an interview follow up by asking them to explain decisions they made, trade-offs, what they would improve. And also, you want someone who's interested in the sports technology. So in an interview, like you can ask them what excites you most about sports technology and how do you stay up to date in this space. During the interviews, in terms of screening for cultural fit and adaptability, so definitely ask some behavioral questions that are focused on startup dynamics. So, for example, tell me about the time you had to figure something out quickly with limited support, or describe a project where priorities shifted rapidly and how did you adapt. You can also give them some kind of scenario, like present a situation. We just had a bug in the wearable firmware 2 hours before a demo. How would you handle that? So just ask them, like you want to look for someone who shows initiative, communication, and who stays calm under pressure. And then I guess ask them some questions that are aligned to your mission. So, for example, what's a fitness or training problem you would love to solve with technology? Or have you used any wearable tech? And if so, like what did you love or hate about it? So in terms of the structure for the interview process, firstly, you can start with like a brief screening call, could be just 15-20 minutes. And that would assess your motivation of the candidate, how they aligned with your mission, also like basic communication skills. Then you can actually give them that practical task or technical screen even before like a, interview loop. So it could be a live session or a take-home task, but it has to be focused on a real product challenge. And then you can do these like more of a deep dive interview. So include both like a tech or product lead or a founder, and maybe 30 to 60 minutes on technical depth, maybe like 30 minutes on cultural values and fit, and 15 minutes for candidate Q&A. So yeah, that's something that I would recommend.
Thank you very much to both of you. You've both touched on it, but I've put a question that tends to work well. I'll put that in the chat. So walk me through the last time you delivered brackets specific outcome at brackets specific skill under brackets specific constraints. What were the exact steps you took and what proof do you have? That can be quite a powerful question to get a lot out of people. The STAR method works quite well. So you want them to give you STAR methods answers, i.e. what the situation was, task at hand, the actions that they personally took, not the team, and the results. In terms of the structuring of the interview, what I've found works well for me is to start with interviews that make them feel at ease. Sorry, with questions that make them feel at ease and they feel good, then go into stuff that is uncomfortable, and then end with stuff that they would plan to do well at your company. This can be a decent method because it means that they leave on a positive note, and if they are a good candidate, then they are less likely to not accept the offer. One thing I have noticed, and that has always increased the chances of me either finding the right people for my startups or the startups I work with, is that unless you are a company that has hundreds of people, but anything under 50, you should always find a way to bring all your final candidates. And by the way, you should not have more than 3 or 4 final candidates on a Friday afternoon or whatever it is, with either people in that team or the entire company, for you to go and, I don't know, have lunch either somewhere or in the office, or do something in a non-official situation, if that makes sense. Because that kind of interaction can go a long way for you to understand whether they're the right fit or not. Okay, we are now 9 minutes away from wrapping up. I think we can go on to another question. It'd be nice if we can have a question from the people live, because then we can ask some follow-ups and perhaps, not perhaps, but definitely give you better answers. It make for much better entertainment. Those of you on the live streams, if you do have any questions, just be aware that we are unable to monitor your questions live. So you have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. I guess quickest way you can do that is via our website, startup2scaleup.club. Again, startup2scaleup.club. You find today's session is very easy, which is Startup Talent Q&A 163. You click join, a quick registration will get you a link to your email, and through that link you can join our audio only call. So whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, just be aware that we are unable to monitor your questions. For those of you that are here or that will make it here, we're taking questions on anything to do with your talent journey. So please feel free to drop them in the chat. I think we've got time for maybe 2 more questions. We've got one in the chat already. Maybe you can drop another one, Tim. So question 4. I'm the co-founder of a pre-seed wellness tech startup in Cardiff, where we provide mobile apps to support mental health. What affordable well-being programs can we implement to ensure our small team stays healthy and motivated given our limited resources? Simultaneously, how do we promote work-life balance whilst also meeting the demands of a growing startup? I think I've kind of lost my marbles because I can't remember who went first last, but I'll give you the chance to go first, whoever wants to go first, either Luke or Margaret.
Maybe I'll go first if you don't mind, because I need to drop off at 1 on the, I can be late for a call at 1.
That's
So
okay, carry on.
yeah, so thank you. And I think Luke went first last time. So okay, so well, I think promoting team well-being in any kind of, not just a pre-seed startup, but any small organization, it doesn't necessarily require big budgets, but it does require being intentional about it. So so just like a few ideas. I mean, maybe you can have like kind of like a weekly or bi-weekly, maybe better, like a peer support circle, so maybe you can create like a safe and optional 30-minute check-in circles for team members to talk openly about challenges. So you can rotate facilitators, or use simple prompts like what's energizing you this week, what's draining you this week. Definitely have maybe like a 1 day a month, well, maybe a quarter, like a paid reset day. No work, no meetings. Well, maybe not once a month, but maybe once a quarter, paid reset day. No work, no meetings. Maybe you can also create some like deep work days with no internal calls, so people can actually focus, or rest. So maybe like no meeting Fridays or no meeting Thursdays, or whatever. I don't know if you have any budget at all, but if you have any, even like a small budget, say like £15 per person, 30, I don't know, 15, £30 per month, let's say. Maybe you can offer like a, small, like a wellness stipend, towards things like fitness apps or therapy apps, like, things like Headspace or Calm or BetterHelp. You can also have like a wellness Slack channel. So we use Slack at Mixmax, but you can use Slack or Teams to share non-work inspiration, gratitude, breathing exercises, or any kind of well-being tips. So you can maybe do that as well. And flexible work hours. So ideally, let people work when they're most productive. If like someone needs to midday or work late evening. Just I think support that autonomy as long as deliverables are met. And in terms of promoting work-life balance, I think one of the most important things is that you lead by example. So if founders must model those healthy boundaries. So, for example, not sending 11 p.m. emails, not emailing someone at 10 a.m. on Sunday, not working really through the weekend unless it's truly urgent, because that's like very stressful for employees. And then also like define maybe the 1 or 3 most important things for the week. So set some clear priorities, because if people are pulled in too many directions, burnout rises fast. And also like maybe encourage them really sign off on work. So for example, setting Slack status to offline, or not responding to non-urgent messages after hours. And also I would definitely do some kind of pulse surveys, maybe quarterly. So you can use free tools like Google Forms. You can use Typefrom. I think there's a free version as well. Just like ask a few simple questions like, how supported do you feel? How is your workload? Anything we can improve. So yeah, that's what I would do. And I think you also want to maybe finally like frame well-being as a performance strategy, because when you talk about well-being, you want to link it to sustainable high performance. So maybe even just something like, we want everyone to bring their best over the long term, and that means rest, boundaries, and support. That matter just as much as the speed and output. But again, it has to come from the top. So as a founder, you need to model those healthy behaviors.
Yeah, I'll be quick because Margaret's answer was pretty much perfect, but I'll just go through my top down from my own experience. Applications and various sort of services. Margaret's right, there's all kinds of cool things. A stipend is better than a top down idea, because if you have a top down idea that there's let's say you're going to use a Headspace app, or you decided, you're going to have to research that, shortlist it, figure out some kind of company budget, go through some kind of demo and training for everyone, measure its uptake, and then maybe sunset it if no one's using it. That's a huge burden for a startup. So it's always better to empower from the bottom up, because it's easy to just give everyone X budget, give them maybe a list of potential cool fitness apps, wellness apps, mental health, physical health. Even like there's even sort of like some medical services, like there's like video therapy and so on that is available, that they're empowered to use. And then it's like having 100 pilot schemes being done for free. And then anything that you see is being used consistently, then the company can say, well, yeah, let's put a bit more effort into that. Let's put a bit more budget into this and give it to the whole business as standard. So it's just a much more operationally effective way to manage those types of apps. So it's good. Same for AI products as well. As an aside, it's a good way to, if you want to look at different AI products that are exploded. Flexible working is by far and away the biggest thing you can do to empower mental and physical health for your employees. The data is irrefutable, and every other thing is really sort of minimal compared to that. So Margaret's right to say you have to be intentional about it. Work with your HR and work with your team, figure out what is possible. I would recommend no meetings days are fine. It really depends on your business methodologies. I can't say that's good or bad until I see that, but company shutdown weeks, no one works between Christmas and New Year, so why not just turn that into a win for the business? No one works Christmas, New Year, okay, well, everyone gets that week off without eating into their holiday time. Maybe a summer week off as well, becoming very, very popular. Be intentional about how you work, like focus on the output of the employees and not the amount of time they spend working. Is very, very helpful, but you have to make sure that this is linked into your performance management and your managers. Make sure that they are trained well in managing people who are working remotely or flexibly. It's also really good for DE&I as women returners, women who are returning from starting families that are more likely to come and join your business. And then lastly, like feedback. You want a feedback cycle between all the wins that this is generating and the rest of your employees. So call out people who are using these things really well, and then maybe invite them to be super users of an app, or talk a little bit online or maybe on socials about what they did in their week off, things like that. So I don't want to eat up the rest of the time, but I think if you really, really want to move the needle, you have to get really, really serious about a philosophy on flexible working. More than anything else, that's gonna move the needle with your employees.
Thank you very much to both of you. Now, here's, in my view, the absolute minimum. This is not rocket science. This isn't going to make you the coolest startup out there or the best startup. No, this is the absolute basics. Number one, remember this is your baby, not theirs. Number two, treat people like adults. If you're not hiring children, and if you think you're hiring adults, treat them like adults. And number three, as cheesy as this may sound, try to treat people as if it was your mother in that role, or however you'd like your mother to be treated if she was in that role. If you do this, and this is the absolute minimum, this will take you a long way. With that in mind, we are now 1 minute over the line. Margaret had to leave, but perhaps Luke, since he's still here, any parting words for us before we let you go, Luke?
Only that you obviously haven't met my mother, Anton.
You haven't met mine either.
No, just wanted to say thanks for having us on, and hopefully people found some value.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time and absolutely amazing input today, Luke. I really appreciate that. Huge thanks to everyone that tuned in today, whether it was via the live streams or those of you here on Microsoft Teams. This was our last Startup Talent Q&A for this summer. Our next one will be on the 8th of September. Because the future sessions, so post-summer sessions, are not live on our site yet, you may want to join our WhatsApp community and actually maybe spend some time during the summer connecting with fellow founders and maybe investors or operators that are in those groups of ours. If you're on the live streams, you can go onto our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Top and bottom of the site, you'll see a WhatsApp icon, and you can connect through there. For those that are here or that will listen to the recording, you can find the link to our WhatsApp community in the chat. Now, today was Startup Talent Q&A. Tomorrow we've got Startup Product and Tech. Wednesday, Startup Growth. Thursday, Startup Fundraising. And normally, like this month, we have UK Startup Law on the second Friday of each month and UK Startup Finances on the third Friday of each month, which was last Friday, basically. So these are our 6 regular sessions. Please feel free to RSVP to future ones. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech Q&A. If you've got any questions on building that early stage of yours. As far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. And especially since this is summertime and you'll find it hard to get through to perhaps potential candidates or potential clients or potential investors. Try to use this time, and I know it's easier said than done, but try to use this time to maybe plug off, recharge your batteries, and most importantly, spend time with your loved ones if you can. So, thank you again. God bless you all. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech Q&A. Bye-bye for now.